Hi, I believe I'm streaming. Let's check. Alright, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So, I hope you all are doing well today. Today's prompt word for Inktober was precious. And the word precious is, I don't know, very broad. Didn't necessarily inspire anything directly. Instead, I started thinking of things that were important to me. Like friendship. I know there's a little bit of a stretch. There's a little bit to go through, but friendship is precious, and I thought I'd draw something for a friend. Now, Godzilla Mendoza was recently kind enough to do a cameo for my latest video in Venom. He's done several before. I know he likes Moon Knight. Moon Knight's precious to him. I said, I'll draw something for you. So that's what I'm doing tonight. Alright, looks like we've got a few folks here. We've got Spider-Boy, Diego, Atomicus, Zan Moff, Brooms Faulty, Jeffrey. Alright. Eating on the air. Yeah, I got a lifesaver in my mouth. It's good. I ain't gonna lie, it's good. So, I don't know how long Moon Knight will necessarily take to draw. He's actually, not the most, elaborately detailed character or anything. So, we'll just see what I come up with, and, yeah, I'll take questions. I'll try to keep looking at the chat room, see what folks are talking about, and, we'll have a good time today. Legally, we'll have a good time. No, anyway, thank you all for joining. Lots of new people in here. Let's see, Lawrence and Eric, and this is great. How the heck are you today, asks Lawrence. Alive. Eric thinks I should cook on stream. Diego thinks I should draw Gollum. I bet a lot of people drew Gollum for today with the word precious. We'll see. Alex is here. Hello. Yeah, thanks everybody for showing up. That's awesome. You know, I'll admit, Moon Knight is a character that I'm not exactly an expert on. I've definitely read plenty of his comics, but they were really like a bunch of comics from the 80s. As soon as we get into the 90s and the 2000s, I don't know a lot about Moon Knight from that point forward. Let's see, Eye Dragon and Mandela Butterfly. That's awesome. Thanks for joining, everybody. So, character with definitely several interesting visual looks. He's had his costume redesigned a few times. Fairly successfully, I would say. I'm drawing him in his classic outfit. I said to Xavier, hey, I'll draw you Moon Knight. What's your favorite version? He said classic. No problem. Gonna do that for you. Alright, Riley's here. Let's see. J. Andrew World joins us. Welcome back. Let's see. Before this, I was watching your old videos, like the Lego reviews and stuff. Yeah, when I first started doing comic tropes, I was trying to just sort of do a few other things that I cared about, but no one was really watching the toy review type stuff, and that's fine. I was just like, you know what? Let's not overcomplicate it. Why don't I just stick with the main thing that I started with, the one thing that I care the most about? Just do comics. But I definitely do have some archived older ideas mixed in there. How's everybody's midweek going? We're getting through the week together. Who's he drawing? Moon Knight? You got it. Francisco says, anyone ever read Bloodsword comics? No, never heard of Bloodsword, have to admit. Should Moon Knight get a movie or Netflix series? Either. Either could probably work because with such an underexplored character, he's pretty open to a lot of different interpretation. Probably would work a little better as like a Netflix show. Meeting guys like Daredevil and Iron Fist, but you never know. I remember James Gunn at one point announced that he was pitching to Marvel a Moon Knight movie, but of course they did let him go, and apparently DC gladly picked him up because what do they got going on? Not a lot. When you think Moon Knight through on any sort of logistical level, like a white costume really doesn't make a lot of sense. Your enemies would certainly see you coming a mile away, so you're not really blending into the shadows or anything, and I don't know, you'd have to spend a fortune on getting it cleaned. But Moon Knight is a little crazy and rich, so those probably aren't huge issues for him. Or maybe I'm putting too much thought into it. All right, let's see. Any questions? Mr. Yuck, hello Shirley. Nice to see you, Shirley. I read Gunn is going to do Suicide Squad too. Well, that's what they got him working on. Broom's Faulty says he wants people to see him coming. Maybe he does. J. Andrew World says that they should adapt the Bill Sienkiewicz run. Yeah, I mean, that's the only sort of run that I know. And I'm definitely a fan of Bill Sienkiewicz, and I like what Doug Mensch did with the character initially, but you know, he's gone through a lot of iterations at this point, and so people could definitely have a favorite version of Moon Knight. I mean, it could be radically different than the next guy that's also a fan of Moon Knight. Yeah. Got to that point where I gotta eat up the last of the lifesaver. All right. Isaac McHale says, "Great channel, man. What are his powers?" His powers are basically just punching people. Depends on the writer. Every once in a while, he's got sort of supernatural powers by the Egyptian god Khonshu, but mostly he's just former mercenary. He's got good detective and punching skills. He's literally a crazy Batman. He was originally sort of a supervillain in a way. He was introduced in the Marvel title Werewolf by Night, and he was hired by some evil guys to take down Werewolf by Night, but he realized, Moon Knight did, that Jack Russell, that was the guy's real name, he realized that Jack Russell wasn't an evil guy, and he actually helped free him after capturing him. So ever since then, he's basically been a good guy. Just one that's been portrayed as, well, his mental illness has never been very consistently portrayed. He was introduced as schizophrenic and later essentially had dissociative identity disorder. So that's sort of varied from writer to writer, and you just sort of have to roll with it. Whoa, thank you, Shirley. That's so kind of you. Just got a super chat. Um, let's see. Chris, are you excited about the new Ed Brubaker trade coming out tomorrow and Criminal coming out soon? Always, always. Huge fan of Ed Brubaker. Probably my favorite writer working today. Yeah, he's got to be. I love Ed Brubaker's stuff. So, yeah, definitely excited. Thank you for the fun question. Always fun to gush about people whose work you've appreciated. Try to always look with a critical eye, but he just hasn't let me down in a really long time. Let's see. So Netflix has to do a Werewolf by Night series, then Moon Knight? Not really. Moon Knight's origin isn't in any way tied to Werewolf by Night or werewolves in general. He really just was introduced in that comic, but he already sort of existed. You know, he had a past as a mercenary and, you know, sort of as a superhero, so we just hadn't really been privy to it, supposedly, at that point. Do you draw on a computer? Sometimes. Not right now. Punisher meets Legion? I guess that's sort of a way of looking at it, except Punisher's pretty much crazy. Come on. I like the dedication for Inktober. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much. It is a commitment, so it's really nice to be recognized for that. But I'm having a pretty good time. I do like drawing, and I do like talking to my audience and talking to just anybody about comics and art and storytelling, comic book history, and nerdy trivia. I love talking about all that stuff. So like I say, I am drawing this for Godzilla Mendoza to thank him for appearing in my latest video, and I'm just curious, are some of you viewers of his channel? Because he's got a good one, and he's got more viewers than me, so I know there's an excellent chance some of you are fans of his. Just curious. Shirley asks, who am I sketching and inking today? This is called Moon Knight. He's a Marvel superhero, and sort of an oddball one, but definitely an interesting, unique visual look. Do I know how to animate? I mean, a little bit. That's an interesting question, Atomicus. If you watched my video, I think it was July, I did a video about G.I. Joe comics, and it was specifically about some comics that Hasbro made with my friend Jeremy Dale providing the artwork, and I just thought that would be kind of a fun topic to discuss, and during that episode, it opens with a short animation that I made. And back in the day, comic tropes used to have a slightly different opening, well, completely different opening, and it had a short animation that I did. So, do I know how to? Yeah, it's just like I'm not the most fluid. I don't have time to do really good animation. If you want to see like fantastic animation on YouTube, I recommend Harry Partridge. Harry is just amazing, just amazing. Yeah, he blows me away, and he's got a new episode that's definitely coming pretty soon of his show Starbarians. So I'm pretty excited for that. Anyway, as far as YouTube animation goes, I definitely give him a recommend, a strong recommend. If you're looking for a starting point, well, since you like comics, I would watch his version of Watchmen as a Saturday morning cartoon. That's pretty hilarious. That was the first thing of his that I ever discovered years ago. It holds up very well, because it's talking about a pretty timeless comic and a pretty timeless tradition of kids' cartoons sort of dumbing down source material to make it all palatable. Broom's Faulty says Harry Partridge is amazing. Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Speaking of YouTube animation, this is Sigamix. Have you heard of Has Been Hotel? I haven't. What kind of material does Has Been Hotel produce? Lawrence Jones asks if I've drawn Alien or Predator. I mean, I definitely have drawn both in the past, but I not for this current Inktober, and I don't think I did for last year's October. In my own time, I've definitely drawn both of those characters. They're both fun to draw. I would say especially the alien from Aliens is a fun character to draw, because you really just get to go totally nuts with shadow and stuff. I mean, yeah, it's pretty fun. Isn't it weird Rambo had a cartoon in the 80s? Yeah, I did an episode about that. Like, I know that my channel is about comic books, not animation, but Rambo's Christmas episode was so bonkers that I was just like, I'm just covering it. You can call it bonus content, or you can get mad that it's not a comic book and not watch the episode. I don't care. I'm reviewing it, and I did, and I have zero regrets. It is bonkers. Just crazy. All right, Sigamig says that the show he's talking about is an upcoming show on YouTube, and it looks promising. I love the art style. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, I'll try to remember that. Hasby Hotel, something like that. Do you read manga? This is Marcus. Alex says that he met Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder at NYCC. Congratulations. Let's see. Do I read much manga? I don't read a lot of manga, but I read some. What would I recommend for a manga noob? The classics. Astro Boy, or anything by Osamu Tezuka. Buddha, that's another good one by him. Akira by Katsuhiro Otomo. That's big, but boy, is it beautiful. His artwork, you're just like, this man is insane how much detail he puts into his panels, especially those 2-page spreads he's famous for. One of my personal favorite manga writers and artists is Naoki Urasawa. You could start with something like Pluto or Monster. I definitely give those strong recommends. So those are a few places to start. Hope that works for you. Good luck. Manga is just like any other comic. It's just comic books from Japan, so there's good stuff and there's bad stuff, and don't let it intimidate you if you happen to come across some bad stuff. There's plenty of good stuff out there. Just look for good reviews and recommendations. I think the same about American comics. Whenever somebody says, like, oh, this is the worst era of comics, I'm like, you're just not looking in the right places, because even the worst eras of comic book history have had some really amazing comics. You just need to know where to look. Excuse me, I've got like a tickle in my throat. It's really annoying. TARDIS Rider asks, where did Moon Knight first appear? He first appeared in a 2-part story in Werewolf by Night. The exact issue, I don't remember. Chris, how was it in Japan? Did you meet nerdy manga guys and girls there to talk to? One sec. I'm going to take a small sip of my tiny little Mountain Dew. Oh, so good. Sorry, I needed some caffeine. Yeah, there are definitely some nerdy places in Japan. I went to a couple comic book stores. I went to the Gachapon store. There's a little video of me doing that. I went to some art supply stores, a Godzilla store. There's nerdy people there. In terms of people that I spoke with, I did some live drawing at like hold on, I'm gonna cough again. Oh, that's really frustrating. Dr. Sketchies. That's like a franchise where someone will host it and they'll get like a model or two, a burlesque model or two, and you pay like a cover charge. It's usually hosted at a bar, so you can have some drinks. You get to draw timed sketches with somebody posing for you, and they have little contests for prizes. So I did that, and there were several English speakers there, both native and from out of town, and so that was one of the places I talked to people the most, and that was really, really fun and pleasant. Everything okay? What's this?
Cold medicine ball to prevent a cold.
Do I chew it or do I swallow it?
Chew it or swallow it.
Okay.
It's chewable.
Guess I got some cold medicine to prevent myself from getting sick. Why are you drinking straight mixer? Because I love Mountain Dew. Moon Knight is in a Superman pose. Hmm. Yeah, I guess he sort of is, isn't he? That wasn't a conscious effort. That was a little chalky. Hold on. Ugh. Ugh. I gotta rinse that taste out of my mouth. One moment. And now I'll wash it down with a burger. Oh. Okay. Put the moon behind him. Well, we'll see. What is your favorite manga? My all-time favorite is probably Monster by Naoki Urasawa. I really liked it. To me, this looked more like a leaping down from, like a ledge or a fire escape pose. I would say that if I drew Superman in this kind of a pose, I would probably have his legs straight out, because Superman, maybe one leg up, but like one leg would definitely be all the way down, because he's more sort of like leaping, almost like he's swimming. Superman is, but Moon Knight is definitely like jumping down right now, and he'll have to catch himself soon. But I can definitely see the similarity, because there is like it's a little bit like that iconic pose on the cover of Superman Spider-Man. Do you like the Lone Ranger? I guess I haven't thought about it a lot. He's fine. Yeah, I don't think I have a strong opinion. I did not see the Disney movie from a couple years ago with Armie Hammer and Johnny Depp. I skipped out on that one, so I guess I can't say that I'm a big fan. He's fine. I appreciate his place in pulp history. That's probably the most accurate way to talk about most pulp characters. But I do kind of have an affection for the Shadow and Green Hornet. Those two have sort of managed to stay pretty relevant, even though they're quite old. Let's see. Any other questions? What's your favorite comic character? I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Graphite Grappler says, have you ever gone to Free Comic Book Day? I pretty much try to go every year. I mean, there's a couple that I've probably missed because I've just been busy with like maybe work or something. But yeah, I usually try to stop by a comic book store on Free Comic Book Day. I mean, who wouldn't? It's free comics, right? You know what I haven't done in a while that I would really love to do, but I just don't have the time to commit is 24-hour comic book day, where you just draw and write and draw for like 24 hours straight and just come up with something. I have done that before more than once, but it's been a little while. I would love to do that again. That is an amazing challenge. Has anyone else here done 24-hour comic book day, where you just draw for 24 hours and try to come up with 24 pages? That's the biggest challenge. Is not like even the endurance it takes to go the 24 hours, in my opinion. It's to just keep making new pages and just say like, yep, that's as good as I'm going to do within 1 hour. Time to move on. See you, pathetic spider boy. Am I familiar with the Vertigo series Fables? Yes. Fables is really good. Fables, I like that series quite a bit. But I like a lot of Vertigo titles. Fables. See, I mean, I'm not super. I'm not an expert. Like it's not my biggest thing. But I liked Hellblazer. I liked Preacher. I really liked stuff like Y the Last Man and Fables. Those were some big ones that I really enjoyed. What's my favorite Frank Miller book? Um, I think it has to be Daredevil Born Again. I think so. I mean, the only one that would really compete for me personally is I do really like Batman Year One. Um, yeah, it would be between those two for me, but probably Born Again. Do you like pulp or are you just a comic guy? I'm a little bit of everything, I think. All right, good night, Atomicus. See you tomorrow. Javon Miles says, I love Fables. I started reading it because of the James Jean covers. Yeah, James Jean's very talented. Agree. Like, his covers are a huge draw for reading that book. Like, I think I bought, like, yeah, okay. For a minute, I was thinking I picked up, like, a James Jean book of just Fables covers, but no, like, I picked up just a book of his paintings and his artwork. It's really beautiful. Give me just a moment to knock out a few details and I'll leap back right into answering questions and telling stories. Just trying not to be too quiet when I focus on the details, but it's always been my biggest challenge to keep talking when I'm drawing. Yeah. Can you refill your ink pen? I suppose so. Hello, Rainy Shack. Good night, WD. Jay Underworld says, I would do 24-hour comic book day with you. I've never done it before. It's fun. It is also good to do with people that you want to spend some time with and talk, because you'll go quiet for a while, like, or somebody will, because they've got work to do, but it's nice to have somebody to chat with and sort of communicate with, etc. I did it at least 1 year with my fiance, with Chrissy. She might have done it with me twice. I can't remember. If Chrissy, if you're in here, remind me. Did you do it once or twice? I think just once. She created a really funny comic book called Mitzi's. Oh shoot, what is it? Like Mitzi's Big Day, something like that. About like a funny old lady. I like it. She still has hard copies somewhere, I think. Chrissy, are you there? Mitzi's Gifts, excuse me. Mitzi's Gifts. That's right. Because she has some weird stuff in her cupboards. Good night, Shirley. A lot of people checking out. Let's see. Do you play March of Empires? Don't know what that is. Afraid I don't play it. Is it a game or is it music? Is it a board game or video game? Do not know. I'm going to bust out my pencil for a minute because I feel like the parts that I've sort of fashioned for or laid out around the shoulders and eyes aren't really helping me as a guideline, and if I just try to ink what I've already drawn, I might make a mistake. So I make a big mistake. So I'm going to just try to rework that a little bit. Yeah. Well, I'll figure it out. All right. Thanks for bearing with me. Let's see. March of the Empires is a game where you kick some booty. They did a toy commercial for Defenders of the Earth with actors once. What do I think of Joe Madureira? You know, I was a big fan of Joe Madureira when he was working on stuff like Marvel Comics Presents, Deadpool, and then X-Men. He rose through the ranks quickly. So, you know, I'm not going to lie. I was a big fan of him at the time. And then he did Battle Chasers at Image, and his output, like, slowed quite dramatically. So I haven't really thought of him a whole lot since, because he hasn't put out a lot of comics since he started Battle Chasers. Just poked around a little bit here and there. I've gone back and like looked at some of those issues of X-Men and Deadpool that I was a big fan of at the time, and they're okay. They're not bad in any way, but it doesn't really speak to me the same way it used to. I think that there was a novelty of that sort of manga-inspired artwork mixed with American sensibilities. And I don't know, now that I've read a lot more manga, it doesn't necessarily feel as unique and exciting to me. So, you know, I would say that, like, I was definitely a big fan when I was a teenager. It hit me at the right point, and I really I'll always appreciate him for that, but it doesn't really resonate with me right now. It leaves, I just sort of look at it and I'm like, yeah, that's okay, you know, it's better than I can do. Like, obviously he's a better artist than me, so I'm not like talking bad, but it doesn't really do much for me anymore. I wish it did, but yeah, if I'm being honest, it doesn't really speak to me anymore. Let's see. And what else do people ask? For a sec, I thought you were doing the Spectre from DC. Sure, I could see that. But hopefully, as I continue here, it'll start to shape up a little bit more and look more like Moon Knight. But yeah, it's a challenge. Alright, well, let me go back to doing some inking here. Use a small brush for the face. I see the crescent moon. I own the bad moon rising trade. Okay, that's cool. Meow. That's from Wannabeast. I started drawing yesterday after the stream. I haven't done it in a while. Cool. I'm going to pop another lifesaver in my mouth because I still have that sort of chalky taste from the medicine you saw me pop in my mouth a minute ago. I'll just keep putting things in my mouth tonight. Let's see where it goes. Yeah, there's definitely still a bunch of characters that I really want to tackle this month. Unfortunately, we're only like about a third of the way through, not even. So, I'd love to do, try to tackle Judge Dredd. Now, he's pretty complex, actually, his costume, so I'm not the fastest artist, but that's a good challenge for me. Like, I'm very curious to see how that will go. I want to do my take on Judge Dredd, and what else? I would like to draw some more horror movie monsters and villains and stuff, but hopefully not repeat myself from last year. Like last year, I know I did Jason Voorhees. I did Creature from the Black Lagoon. You know, I did some of my favorite sort of designs already. So this year I'll probably go with some that aren't necessarily my personal favorite like movies, but I like the design still. So like I want to draw a Cenobite, maybe Pinhead, maybe somebody else. There's definitely like plenty of interesting characters left that I want to tackle this month. I'd love to try to draw some pretty ladies. I feel like my women are pretty bland or not that attractive usually. I kind of like to be able to do that anyway, if I so choose. What else do I want to try to draw? Probably some vehicles. Could be a car, could be an X-Wing. You know, something like that. There's a bunch that I still want to draw this month. Draw Jack Nicholson from The Shining? Maybe. Judge Death? Maybe. Maybe. Lawrence says, what is your opinion on making comic book movies rated R? I believe it, something like maybe it worked. It already, I lost it. Like, I think said something like it worked with Logan and Deadpool. Yeah. I say whatever the material warrants. Wasn't Ghost World rated R? Wasn't Road to Perdition? The Blade movies? There have been lots and lots of R-rated movies. The various Punisher movies, they're not such a great example. There have been plenty of R-rated movies, but it's like what the material supports. That's sort of what I was arguing in my Deadpool review, was just that like that character, people think that maybe he was dark and that maybe he could have supported an R-rated movie. I don't think that would have worked too well for the character, honestly. I think that the character is a little silly and wouldn't have worked very well as an R-rated movie. I just don't think it would work with that material. Yeah. So anyway, it all depends on the material. Like, I love a director like Quentin Tarantino, right? Do I want to see a Quentin Tarantino version of, I don't know, let me think of like, you know, a fairly innocent character. A Quentin Tarantino R-rated Thor? Probably not, honestly. Probably not. James Gleason says Swamp Thing movie is a guilty pleasure. Draw Macross Valkyrie, says Asman. That's a pretty complex character. I'll have to think about that. It's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. Just don't know how I do at it. So tomorrow is my one day off. With I worked for I don't remember whether I've worked for 4 or 5 days, but I definitely worked for 5 days after this. So I only get like one day sort of as a weekend, and I'll probably end up live streaming earlier tomorrow. Maybe, I don't know exactly when. Sorry, wish I could figure it out, but I've got a lot to do tomorrow, including making the next Comic Tropes episode, as well as any sort of personal errands and chores that I need to accomplish on my one day off. So I will be live streaming, but exactly when, not 100% sure, unfortunately. Wish I could tell you, don't know. Have I done a video on Bill Sienkiewicz yet? Not yet. I would very much like to. I did talk briefly about him, in a sense, in my video about Legion, because the artwork in that was by Bill, and I am a fan. I definitely am. So I would love to spend some time digging deeper into his history and his techniques. But yeah, Sienkiewicz is fantastic. He's a real master. We should be so lucky as to have so many experimental artists in mainstream comics. So that'll be a fun one someday. I come to realize I don't think I will ever run out of topics for my show, because there's so many artists and writers out there throughout history, and there's always new ones. There's always characters or big moments to talk about, or how the industry operates. So I'll be able to do this show as long as I feel like doing it, which is kind of nice to realize. Do something with a brush since you have some time. Leave me alone. Maybe I will, though. Software Agents TV says, I've been calling him Sinkenowitz. It's Sienkiewicz. He, look at his Twitter. I'm pretty sure he says Sienkiewicz. Sorry about the weird sounds I'm probably making because of the lifesaver, but boy, it's so delicious that I'm willing to deal with losing some viewers over it. This is a discovery. Chrissy got these butter rum ones. Ooh, they are good. These are good. Are there other artists who do painted covers beside Bill? I only remember that guy Nelson. Oh sure, there's lots of guys that'll do painted versions of covers. But let me think. I mean, of course there's Alex Ross. Who else does painted covers these days? Well, I said that with such confidence, but then my mind drew a blank as soon as I started to try to think of who I was so confident about. I don't know, actually. I feel like I have seen plenty of painted covers, but nothing's popping into my head right this second. I call it the game show thinking. When you watch a game show, you're like, how can these people not think of a good answer? And then you sort of put yourself in their shoes and you're like, well, maybe they're just sort of overwhelmed by everything that's going on. I'm sure all of you right now are thinking of plenty of examples that I just didn't have on the spot. Something like that, right? Sean Phillips does painted covers. Thank you. And I love Sean Phillips. Excellent example. Thank you for stepping up and helping me there. How can I help you? That's his name? Oh, well done. You can help me by saying Sean Phillips does painted covers. You did. Thank you. Broom's Faulty says, I've been meaning to send you fan art for so long now. Hey, take your time. Nathaniel Rhodes is here. Ghost Dog joins us. Brian A. Cool. Jeffrey Hall says, will you do any of your own creations this month? Oh. Maybe I will at least once. Yeah. That's a good idea. Maybe I will. I don't know. As long as I feel like I could do a good job, I suppose. I'd hate to, like, draw an idea that I had and have it only come out lackluster. Then people would be like, your ideas suck. The internet is brutal. Don't get into doing a YouTube channel unless you can stand people just absolutely hating on you for any reason. I get called fat all the time, so that affects my opinions or my critiques. Chris, have you go Ant Weird comics from the contest? What? Have I got any weird comics from the contest? Not yet. Not yet. Maybe the contest will completely bomb, actually. Yeah. So far, what I've received is a box of clear plastic boxes that maybe you'd put like an action figure or something in. And I believe it was a mistake that somebody ordered something to be sent from an eBay seller and the eBay seller sent the wrong thing. So that's what I've received so far. Chris, your channel rocks. Thank you, Candid. I love the Venom episode. That's nice. People do hate you for no reason suck. Oh, people who hate me for no reason suck. Okay, thanks. Well, I'm glad that you folks are enjoying it, you know? That's nice. A drawing of Dracula versus Wolfman, classic Universal look would be awesome. Yeah, that's true. Hello to Joaquin. Thank you for joining. Oh, Dave McKean, J. Andrew World points out, is another guy that paints covers. Yep, Dave McKean. David Mack is another one, right? Yeah, there's a bunch. Just not all coming to me. Glenn Fabry. Actually, you know what you need to do is just think who does covers for Vertigo. There's a lot of painted covers there. Jo Chen. She does some painted stuff. Would a manga adaptation of the Bible count as weird? Yeah, that would be pretty weird. Is there such a thing? If you do more manga, I hope you do My Hero Academia, Pop Team Epic, or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. If I did, My Hero Academia out of that list would be the most likely, because I actually do read that one, and I like it a lot. But, yeah, there's plenty of manga to talk about, but I also want to try to actually do a few more like European comics and maybe South American comics because I haven't really done that yet. I can't imagine why anyone would hate you. Your channel is so awesome. You know, like some people just don't like things that start to be successful. I honestly think that there is some jealousy in there. And that's definitely not like to boost myself up and say that I'm amazing. It's just that I'm consistently putting something out there and there is an audience. And I because I used to get, like when I was smaller, you know, like just like a few thousand, I would only get thumbs up on the videos and pretty much just nice comments, and I would read everything. But you know, now we're like 26,000 subscribers deep, and you know, some videos will get like all of a sudden get like 3 thumbs down, and I'm like, why? But I think it's honestly people just don't like my success. Now, some people might legit not like what I'm doing, and that's totally fair. But if that is the case, very few of them have offered any sort of constructive criticism that I could use to improve. Um, anyway, because some people do like sort of say things that are like wrong or like a mistake that I made, or maybe like that my audio or my video could use improving. Like they're like, get more focus or get better audio so that there's less echo. I'd love to, but that stuff does cost money. I'm working with the tools that I have. I'm working with the tools that I have. Let's see. Yeah, people are talking about some weird ideas for comics. Rob Liefeld once made a comic book about like the Bible. I think Jesus gets down off the cross and beats up Thor, something like that. It's really hard to remember. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but that's one. Anyway, yeah. Hopefully, I do get some cool, weird stuff like that. That would that would be great. Figured it would just be fun, both like as potential material for the show, no question, but like also just like a way for people to potentially contribute if they knew about something obscure, bizarre that they thought should be on the show. Because I do like going pretty with pretty deep pulls and pretty obscure stuff when I can. When I can. Let's see. Steve Rude paints. Okay, that's cool. Mark Wade is getting sued. Have you heard about that? Yeah. Yeah. Not sure that suing Mark Wade is the best way to break into comics. I did read about that on Bleeding Cool, so maybe their take was biased. But didn't sound like a strong lawsuit to me. If you guys are curious, like just go to Bleeding Cool and look up Mark Wade lawsuit. It's fairly recent news, maybe a week ago or so, something like that. Didn't seem like a good idea to me. But what do I know? right, let's see. Chris, you don't mess with Nexus. What's that mean? Oh, Cara Bear Comics says, you mean the Goddessy, Jesus versus Zeus. That is the one I'm thinking of. I haven't read it, but I have seen some pages. That's a pretty weird comic. Have I thought about working with your local public access TV station? I do my music reviews with mine. No, I've never really thought about that, to be honest. I don't know that it would really do much to boost my audience. I feel pretty good about like just working on YouTube for now. It's an interesting idea. And if I was working on a different topic or something, then I might give that a lot more consideration. If I was just like reviewing movies or TV or something like that, but I don't feel like comics would especially take off on public access here any more than they do on YouTube. I don't know. It's an interesting idea, though. Steve Rude's Nexus. What about it? I haven't really read much of it. I've read a little bit. Steve Rude's got a lot of good fundamentals to his artwork. I think he seems to be very inspired by Alex Toth, but I don't think he has. While his characters look similar, his figure work and stuff, I don't feel like his storytelling skills are quite on the same level, like panel to panel. But yeah, that's my take, I guess, on it. I know that's yeah, I don't know. I don't feel good criticizing professionals because it's like I don't think I'm necessarily as good, but at the same time, I'm going to be honest with my opinion and where it comes from. Who's my favorite writer? Says Quinn. I mean, working today, it'll be Ed Brubaker. Beyond that, I'd have a hard time like figuring that out. Have I ever thought of live streaming yourself selling some cars? Don't think my job would like that if I did that. Because I don't think that the customers would really especially like that. It is crazy to think that right now in my life that I am a used car salesman, because that just sounds nuts. Like, everybody has an idea of what a used car salesman is, and it's like a cartoon. And that's not really what it's like in real life, but it's like I still never, ever in a million years thought that this is what I'd be doing. It's not that I'm too good for it. I kind of enjoy it in a lot of ways. It's just not what I thought I'd be doing with my career. I went to college and got a degree in marketing, and I've used it for like over 20 years. And I'm just in a position right now where I need to earn money, and it's just the only job I could find. So it's a very strange place to be in at this stage in my career. I have a very hard time getting used to that idea. It cracks me up, honestly. It cracks me up to think that I am selling used cars. But I'll tell you, it gives you some great stories. It really does. Every single day is really interesting. You meet some interesting people. And I just don't feel that I can really talk about it like in too much detail while I'm working there. I'd never use people's names no matter what, but like after I'm gone and there's been some time, I can probably talk in more broad strokes about some of the people that I encounter. It's all pretty interesting. It really is. And I'm just like, wow, this would make a great setting for a TV sitcom. A workplace sitcom. Let's see. Has anyone read East of West? Yeah, I think that Hickman is a fantastic writer. So I've read a bunch of East of West. I'm kind of behind on it. I'm behind on a lot of comics that I read, but what I read was pretty fascinating. What other comments are there? Moon Knight is looking pretty good. It's alright. You seem too nice and nowhere near unctuous enough, going by the stereotype, of course. Yeah, it's true. I'm a people pleaser. I definitely get uncomfortable thinking that I don't want to make people feel bad. I don't. But I do enjoy analysis and criticism, and I'm going to be honest with my opinions. So if I don't think something's good, I will be honest about it. It just doesn't, that aspect of it brings me no pleasure. Anyway, why Moon Knight? Just started watching. Oh, for a friend. Godzilla Mendoza is another YouTuber, and he was kind enough to do a cameo for my recent video about Venom, and he likes Moon Knight, so I told him I would draw him one. Yeah. Heard you talking smack about Minneapolis, Darup's Chop says. Yeah, you definitely heard right. You definitely heard right. I can't stand Minneapolis, man. Oof. Minneapolis, what's the deal with being cold? I mean, why not be warm? Now, I don't think I've ever said anything mean about Minneapolis because I don't think a lot about Minneapolis, so that's probably not too nice. I don't know. What's Minneapolis famous for? What I love traveling, so I am curious. Like, what would be good to do in Minneapolis? I would love to visit. Just thinking of it because it sounds a little similar. I'd love to visit Milwaukee. I've got a bunch of friends in Milwaukee. I would like to visit Milwaukee sometime. I don't know when I can afford to take time off or pay for travel, but that's something I would enjoy doing. Minnesota has the Mall of America. Yeah, I know that, but is it still popular? I feel like malls in general are having a tough time. There's not too many anchor stores that are successful these days, are there? Um, so I wonder what the Mall of America is like. I mean, I guess it's big enough that it'll outlast most of the rest of them, but I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to erase some of these superfluous pencil lines to sort of see what I need to do inking wise here so that I'm not just making a total mess. Clear things up a little for myself anyway. Where's your favorite place to visit in America that isn't where you're from, where you live anyway? Where's your favorite place to visit in America? I would say mine is always New York City. There's always stuff to do in New York City, you know? I guess it's dinner time because my cats are making howling noises that they want to be fed. So I should probably figure out like where I'm going with this thing so that I can help them out. Let's see. Sigamig says you could make a comic about being a car salesman like Durf's Trashed. That's a decent idea actually, Sigamigs, and that is something I will consider. I do have an idea a little bit like Trashed. My superhero year. And I said this a few times on live streams, but not in a while. When I first moved out here, I didn't know too many people in the Seattle area. One of the few people I knew was Phoenix Jones, who's a real-life superhero. And I decided that I would also dress up as a real-life superhero and run around Seattle stopping fights and chasing down drunk drivers and hit and runs and stuff like that. So I did that for a year, and in retrospect, I don't know what I was thinking, but definitely met some interesting people, encountered some crazy situations, got involved in some fights, and yeah, it's I think that would be interesting to just tell, like, this is what it's like to sort of in the real world dress up like a superhero and actually try to make the world a better place. It's not very effective. So that's something I would potentially make as a comic book someday. But I don't really want to draw it myself. Of course, I would like to write it, but I don't really feel like I want to draw it. I sort of want a slightly cartoonier style than what I sort of do. Anyway, we'll see. I think I'd like to tell that story someday. What my life was like putting on a superhero costume. Let's see. People are talking about places where they'd love to visit. Eric says, I live in New York City. It's a great place to get comics. Totally agree with you. Let's see. Jay Underworld says, I want to take the Steve Rude painting class near Milwaukee. Cool. Jeff Vessel says, Hawaii and New York City are his favorite places to visit. Nice. James Gleason says his mall has a comic book shop. That's interesting. There's not too many of those here in America. When I was in Japan, there were, There were comic book stores in some of the mall areas. But comic books are much more accepted and much more mainstream and much more disposable. Like, you can just find them at any sort of bookstore or newsstand over there. It's nice. There's a lot of respect for comics over there as an art form. Let's see. Wow, Chris, that Moon Knight is looking great. Oh, thank you for the kind words. Matter Eater Lad has to be the dumbest superhero ever created. James, have you watched my show? I feel like I found plenty of Golden Age superhero ideas that are much worse than Matter Eater Lad. Matter Eater Lad, they at least knew what they were doing. They were having fun coming up with like as ridiculous an idea as possible. Like, that was intentional. But something like Sergeant Spook or Captain Fearless, Mr. Whiskers, or 7-Eleven, they thought they were making something cool, and they weren't. Hypnox, oof. Some pretty painful ideas mixed in there, so I feel like there's plenty of ideas worse than the goofy stuff that they did with Superman and Superboy and stuff like that. But that's my 2 cents. I could be wrong. Probably not, though. I'm a really smart guy. Let's see. Nah, this needs to be black too. Anyway, I'm close to wrapping this guy up. I want to leave a lot of his uniform intentionally white, not overly detailed per se. So I'm kind of where I want to be on this. I'll just clean it up a little. It's not necessarily my best work, but I don't think it's too bad. Asmund Caesar says, I don't even live on the American continent, but I guess if I visit, I'd want to go somewhere warm. You want to go to Hawaii. It's called Hawaii. It's the best place we've got. Eric Whitehurst says, I thought you were joking about Phoenix Jones until I looked it up. Wow. No, totally telling the truth. Combo Man, yeah. James Gleason says, Phoenix Jones, isn't he the guy who was trying to be a real superhero? I would say he wasn't trying. He did as much as anybody has to be a real life superhero, and I ran around with him as Omega. You can see me in the there was an ESPN documentary, and I'm in that a lot. And I think it would make an interesting comic book sometime to just sort of discuss what my personal experience was like. So strange times. Eventually I sort of came to feel like I wasn't necessarily, or really the idea of a real life superhero didn't really work, and was probably never going to work. I think Phoenix would strongly disagree with me, but that was how I felt. I don't think that there's any hard feelings there. As far as I know, he still does it from time to time. Yeah. So that's my strange life. All right. Do you remember Who Wants to Be a Superhero? Was that the Stan Lee show? I think I remember that. That was not so good. All right. There was a version of Captain Marvel who could separate his body parts in order to fight crime. I'm not kidding. I remember a guy that was like a limb pop-off man or something like that, and but I don't remember it having anything to do with Captain Marvel. I thought that it was part of the Legion of Superheroes, but I could be wrong on that. Anyway, I think that basically that's what I'm gonna do for tonight. I think I'm gonna leave it there, and let me just I guess I'll do a couple highlights here and there of certain areas. Hey, do you guys think that I should see Venom? Like, I'm curious. Like, tomorrow's my day off, and mostly I'll probably be too busy to go to the movies. But if I did have time, does anyone out there think that it's actually any good? Like, would it be worth my money, or should I save my money for something better? I'm definitely curious, like, if anyone thinks it's worth actually paying movie prices to see. Any opinions? It was Arm Fall Off Boy for the Legion of Replacement Heroes. Thank you, Ellis Grieger. Thank you. Let's see. Jeffrey Hall says it was terrible about Venom, I guess. Rosanna Man says go on a $5 day. Fair. Okay, so nobody's really just saying like, yes, totally go see it. Fair enough. Obviously, I wouldn't be seeing it in any kind of timely manner to even do like, a review or anything like that. So, probably doesn't make sense for me to go see Venom. That's fair. I'll just save my money and go to see something better. Just curious, because if I had free time tomorrow, what could I potentially do? But it won't be that then. All right. Yeah. So there's Moon Knight. You know what I'm gonna do? I really liked yesterday the look that my Spock came out with when I did just light grays. So I'm going to do that again, actually. Just give him a few light gray areas and see what that ends up with. Let's see. Eric says he liked Venom, and James Gleason says check out Venom, it's entertaining. Quinn says if you like Venom, maybe. I'm not that into Venom necessarily. I do like Tom Hardy. I think he's a good actor. Snowflame was a cocaine-powered supervillain. I know that. Joaquin says I liked it. Okay. Hey, Taylor. Wait, is this the Taylor Peterson that just drew that fan art at the end of my Venom episode? Are you that Taylor Peterson? Where I'm looking at Infotron in my basement? I'm just curious if that's the same person. It is. I loved that piece. That was hilarious to me. Kind of reminded me a little of something like Sergio Aragone's style. I loved it. Thank you so much for that. That was hilarious. Infotron in basement, my favorite. That's from How Can I Help You? So yeah, you can say that you're late, but you're not too late to get a compliment. Thank you for that. I've been lucky enough to get a lot of fantastic fan art. I'm glad I sort of implemented that idea because I've been having a blast just seeing what people come up with. And it's fun to, like, just mention people, plug their work, and give away at least one Gachapon prize. I think it's fun. Thank you very much. Yeah, I liked it very much. All right, let's see. I'm just trying to think of. Yeah, I guess I'll leave his costume pretty much white and just use different depths of Copic markers to sort of indicate a little bit more shading. Chris, how is your cat doing? She's doing very well. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Light gray all the way. I keep telling myself to draw fan art, but never get around to it. Well, just whatever you want to do, Care Bear. I said that like Care Bear. Care Bear. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. So take your time, and when the inspiration hits you, feel free to join in. Definitely not something I'm telling people to do. It's just if they feel like it, I think it's a fun way to sort of show other people's work. And geez, now that I think of it, I guess I hope that like people don't think I'm trying to exploit their work. But yeah, I mean, I'm not, because the episode isn't about fan art. The episode is about whatever I'm doing, and then I'm saying like, hey, here's what we're labeling fan art. So yeah, I changed my mind. I'm not worried anymore. It's completely voluntary if people want to contribute. Any other questions? Let's see. You got that Greg Land piece from me. I'm glad you didn't stop taking fan art after that. J. Andrew, it was a very funny piece. I hope you understand that, like, I got a kick out of it. I just didn't think it was quite what I wanted to show the world. But I got a kick out of it. So don't worry. It was definitely something I had to think about, and I'm glad you didn't like go away or anything. You're a very talented artist. What are you working on these days? Because J. Andrew World's a pretty talented guy. He's always working on comics and stuff, on the like, maybe a little indie, but he's working in comics. Let's see, who wins a fight, Flash versus Superman? Superman? Quinn London says, Todd McFarlane comic tropes? I made one. Look into the archive, there is one. Let's see. Any other questions? C. Kim is here. Thank you. Welcome. Just do a couple touch-ups here, and then I'll switch to another shade of gray, and then I'll probably wrap things up pretty soon. Let's go back to a lighter one here and sort of do one of these. Yeah, I think that works. Okay, Quinn says that he did not know that I did a Todd McFarlane episode, but I did. So there you go. Do you use TV tropes or wikis as part of my research? Not really TV tropes. I have looked at Wikipedia before, absolutely. Not so much TV tropes because, and of course I came across them early on when I started doing just like research and Googling. Of course I came across them. But they have a lot of their own terms for like, this is a trope. And so that's not quite exactly the same as what I'm doing, which is where I'm saying like, hey, this is a recurring element. That's a trope. I'm not like naming it or anything like that and saying like, hey, this is the third example of XYZ trope. So don't quite use that as a resource. And hopefully it makes sense now that I've explained why. Do this. Yeah, we're close to done, folks. But having fun here with my Copics. Just for me. This is just for me. We'll go back to like a cooler version of gray here so that it blends a little. And then I'll go to one of my lightest ones and wrap this up. If Marvel came to you and said, pitch us something, what hero would you pitch? Oh, cool. If they came to me. Well, I think I'm going to have to get a lot bigger before they come to me. But I would probably pitch either Doctor Strange, Captain America, or Spider-Man. I think I have some ideas for each of them. Try to hit an angle that maybe hasn't been exploited yet, but still feels in character. So I've got those are some characters, and I wouldn't even say that I'm necessarily the world's biggest Doctor Strange fan, but that's a character I've given a lot of thought to because it's hard to write a magical character, a character that like you can almost like always give him a new spell or a new power. So you know that's sort of a tricky character to sort of define. But I've given that some thought, and I feel like I've got an idea there. I've always got a take on like some of my favorite characters, like Captain America or Spider-Man. So I'd probably pitch something like that. Well, who knows? If you have read it, it's not that good. His art's great, though. I don't know what that's referring to. Sorry. Uncanny Kodiak, thank you for joining. I have a great inquiry of you. Okay. Jimmy Tigiani says, do you like coloring in digital versions of older comics or even reprinted omnibuses? Too polished for my taste. You know what I like? There is an app. Let me pull it out and show you. There's an app I really enjoy called, come on, I can pull this up. Marvel Color Your Own. And I actually like paid the few dollars that it costs to get this each year. And, you know, they show you little like thumbnails of like what you theoretically could do. But this really isn't, while you could do that, this is not Photoshop. You're using your finger and it can get really tricky. So it's easier to just sort of drop in big, just big colors. You can just sort of, yeah, like this is sort of an X-Men that I did. It's all sort of primary, not primary, but it's just like, it's not shaded, you know? I'm trying to think. I think there was one that I did where I shaded it, but I can't remember right now which character it was. Let me see. Captain America, maybe? No? Wolverine? Let me see if I've... Yeah, okay. So here's one that I tried doing like shading on instead of just like dropping the colors. See, like I did some shading on like Wolverine all over. Um, it was tricky in this app. It's not hard in um, in Photoshop, but that was one where I was like adding sort of gradients and stuff like that, and I just ended up getting sort of burned out. But this is a really fun app. This is called this is a really fun one just to mess around with when you're sort of bored in front of the TV or something like that. Like, let's say, like, there's one I drew of like what, Crossbones shooting up Wolverine. Anyway, that's a fun app. I really like it. It's a good way to pass some time. So let's see. That'll do it for today. I don't know who Alex Sinclair is. I'm sorry. I'm missing a joke. All right. Spider Boy says Todd McFarlane draws the best Wolverine. Try to change my mind. I just hope that's a joke. I just hope that's a joke, because when I think of Wolverine, I think of course, you know, John Byrne or Frank Miller. In the early days, Dave Cockrum. Who else is like a really great Wolverine artist? Mark Silvestri's run with Larry Hama on the comic. I think Mark Silvestri did a great Wolverine for a really long time. Art Adams draws a great like cowled version of Wolverine. There's so many artists that I think do good. All right, C. Kim says again, look up Prisoners of Gravity. I will. Buscema, Mark Texiera, Jim Lee. Of course, Jim Lee's great. Keep your pencil sharpened, friends. That's a good catchphrase, James Gleason. So I guess I will leave you with mine, which is keep reading comics. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I had a good time tonight. I will see you tomorrow, hopefully at a little earlier hour. All right, take care.